Kansas State football is back in the win column on Thursday with a new transfer portal addition to discuss, and I cannot wait to get into today's video. Guys, thank you so much for being here. We talk about the Cats just about every other day. Trying to get videos on the portal, on K-State football, K-State basketball, though it is a bad time. I try to do a little bit of everything here, but I do appreciate all those who jump in and support. And if you want to continue to help out, be sure and hit that subscribe button. It means a lot, and I'll love you forever. Thank you to all who do, and at 3,000 subs, getting the cat script tattoo across the left thigh. It'll be pretty sweet. So be sure and help us get to that goal. But let me jump in here talking about another Ohio State transfer. A second Ohio State transfer has hit Kansas State. A big-time pickup for Chris Klieman and his staff, noting the 14th player through the transfer portal this season. That is an offensive lineman from Ohio State. That is George Fitzpatrick, also the roommate of Gabe Powers. We'll talk about Gabe's role in the recruitment here in just a minute, but let me start off by reading some size, reading some background, reading his high school numbers, transfer portal numbers, so on and so forth, including a breakdown from one of 24/7 Sports' writers. Starting off here. Fitzpatrick, right off the rip, you got to love the size. 6'6", 313, that is a tackle waiting to happen, an NFL offensive tackle, with time to grow into his frame even beyond this. Coming out of Cherry Creek High School in the class of 2022, George Fitzpatrick was rated the 167th player in the country, a 4-star prospect by 24/7 Sports, the 15th best tackle in the country, and the number 2 player in the state of Colorado. Now, to jump a little bit further, he got offers from literally everybody and their brother. I'll read you through this, but imagine an offer. He probably got that offer, to tell you the truth. Conveniently enough, Kansas State was one of the first people to offer the Colorado native, so, it kind of comes full circle. It's a pretty sweet thing. I haven't counted how many offers he's got, but there is a ton. You got Utah, Texas A&M, Texas, Tennessee, TCU, Notre Dame, Nebraska, Missouri. These are just bits and pieces here. There's a lot of teams in between these, but big names. Miami, Kansas State, Kansas, Iowa State, Florida State, Colorado, Auburn, Michigan, Florida, Oklahoma, Oregon, and Ohio State. 1,000 more teams on that list, but those are the big dudes recruiting George Fitzpatrick. So a cool thing to see. But let me read you what 24/7 Sports' writers said about George Fitzpatrick coming out of high school. This is 24/7's Gabe Brooks. He does some great work. Projected him as a rounds 4 to 7 pick, a day 3 pick in the NFL draft once he gets to that stock. This is what Brooks had to say. Unverified size and frame, but appears to have very good height and bulking potential. Excels playing forward in space, gets off the ball quickly and arrives at the second level ahead of schedule. Shows foot quickness and lateral range to consistently initiate engagement of second level targets. Looks to finish blocks and displays encouraging field demeanor. Played right tackle as a sophomore and junior. Quick Joe comment here. As a sophomore and junior, the guy won like 23 different games. Guy went 14-0 as a sophomore, starting at right tackle on varsity, and then went 9-0 as a senior, starting on varsity. Both wins in the state championship for 5A Colorado. That's a big deal. Back to the right-up. He could stay there or possibly develop into a left tackle in college. Natural movement ability suggests high potential as a pass blocker. His ultimate ceiling is dependent in part on verified length. Functional athlete who lacks context in the form of verified combine testing or track and field. Natural high center of gravity compromises leverage, consistency, and body control at times. An intriguing offensive tackle prospect who likely possesses both a high floor and high ceiling in the long term. You gotta love that. Projects to the high major level with the potentially becoming a multiple-year quality starter who could play beyond college. You gotta love to see that. That's a great write-up there. Also was on the All-American Bowl coming out of high school, a big-time player to say the least. If I didn't mention it, I should have mentioned it earlier. We got some O-lineman highlights, baby. You love to see it. Shout out to George Fitzpatrick. Also, fresh off a national championship, comes to Kansas State, gets the recruitment done quick and easy. This is the beautiful thing you love to see with recruiting, folks. This is a big-time want from Kansas State. Shoring up the right tackle position, I think so at least. Could he play left tackle? Absolutely. He's grown into that size. He's grown into that frame. But as it sits right now, I think Brandon Sneeze, your left tackle, and George Fitzpatrick, your right tackle. We'll talk about what the O-line looks like here in a sec, but you got to appreciate the work that Gabe Powers did and Ohio State in general. Like, the relationship they have with Kansas State and vice versa, that's a big-time situation. I think a lot of these guys go to college football that are these elite, top-of-the-line athletes, and sometimes they discredit some of the Big 12 schools. Sometimes they discredit different stuff. I'm not saying this is the case for George Fitzpatrick, but when you see high-level guys hit the transfer portal like this that are big-time recruits coming out of high school, coming to a place like Kansas State, it feels like such a great second chance at college football. Like, Manhattan, Kansas is the perfect place to be. I think he's kind of a Rust Belt type dude, ready to work for Connor Riley, one of the best offensive line coaches in the country, and his reputation precedes himself. I'm excited to see what happens with his ability on the football field. But you gotta love Gabe Powers, a new Kansas State commit, a linebacker from Ohio State himself, roommates with George Fitzpatrick, doing the work on the recruiting trail. I know Will Howard gets his hat tips here and there, and we love Will Howard. Everybody's going to love Will Howard. This one I'm chalking up to Gabe Powers. I think he did a ton in the recruiting process, and I've heard some really good things behind the scenes just about his fit in Manhattan, and I think he gets another step of the upside of what this offensive line can be. On paper, this group looks better to me right now than it did last season, but let me go down this. I think it's also something I should mention here. It's obviously crucial that these guys hit the ground running because we as Kansas State fans want to see both Gabe Powers, George Fitzpatrick succeed. That being said, it's also something that will carry paths going forward to guys that say, okay, it didn't work out for me at a blue blood college football team. Let me go somewhere that has serious, college football playoff aspirations, a good team, a good close-knit community and culture, and let me see what I can do. When guys like that hit the portal, come to Kansas State, they come back home. Obviously, in the case of Dylan Edwards is what I'm implying here, and then they have success at the home spot. Like, I went back to Kansas State and succeeded. I'm at a place where maybe I didn't expect to be after 2 years of college football, but I'm here now and I'm making the best of it. When guys see that, people understand, okay, this culture is real, this team is real, and it continues to bring in more high-level blue-chip type prospects, whether it be out of high school or in the college football transfer portal. These are big deals. So shout out to Gabe Powers and George Fitzpatrick coming to Manhattan. In addition, you can talk about ability, you can talk about development, you can talk about everything that goes into being an offensive lineman. I won't discredit any of that. What I will say is this. The offensive line from left to right looks a heck of a lot more intimidating than it did last season. Let me run you through some sizes, and this is obviously pending on medical waivers for Taylor Portier, Hadley Panzer. I'll give my take on that in a second, but left to right as it sits right now. Last season, it was Easton Kilty, who's going to go to the NFL, have a successful career, standing 6'6", 307. That's a big man. Good player, came to the Big 12, didn't miss a beat, looked great, all Big 12 type offensive lineman. This year, Kansas State picks up Brandon Snee, who is a mountain of a man at 6'7", 330. That is an inch taller, 20 pounds heavier than a solid standout left tackle at Kansas State. Last season, he had Hadley Panzer at 6'4", 305. This season, in my projection, because I don't see Hadley Panzer getting an eligibility waiver this season. I think Taylor Portier does because his knees were banged up in back-to-back seasons. Hadley, I do think, is probably going to get turned away by the NCAA. I think Amos Talalele, the USC transfer, is going to start there, going from 6'4", 305 to 6'5", 340. Got another inch, got 35 pounds on Hadley Panzer. Center, Sam Hecht's returning, 6'4", 287, a little bit light. That being said, going into his senior year, I expect him to get closer to that 300 mark. The staff doesn't take that stuff lightly. They go over the top when it comes to developing guys physically. That's a big thing. So I feel like Sam Hecht last year versus this year, going to be even more improvement upon that. I think Taylor Portier still gets his waiver this season, standing at 6'3", 305. That being said, if not, Andrew Langyang looked good when he tossed himself at right tackle or guard. Wherever they needed him, he looked good at times. 6'6", 307, so a full 3 inches taller, a couple pounds heavier, and then obviously has another year to develop. I think TP is back, and he kind of was the heart and soul of the offensive line last year, so I'd be excited to see that. I'd be ecstatic to see that. And then right tackle. Like I said, George Fitzpatrick, big dog. Last season, Carver Willis, this is your biggest difference. Carver Willis stood 6'5", 291 at a Division I right tackle. That is just not big enough. He was a good player. He's going to Washington now. We'll see what happens there. George Fitzpatrick, 6'6", 313. From left to right, this looks like a national championship-sized offensive line. Here, take that with a grain of salt. Take that with a grain of salt. I know there's a lot of stuff that has to go into that. But the point is, you got bigger, stronger at key positions on the O-line. And if the O-line can get back to that spot where they're controlling the line of scrimmage, having Dylan Edwards in the backfield, having Avery Johnson in the backfield, Joe Jackson, it's going to be a field day. If Avery gets more time, if he gets more holes in the rushing attack, this is going to be an elite offense in college football, folks. So a massive add. You secured your 2 tackle spots with both Willis and Kilty out the door with Snee and Fitzpatrick. So George Fitzpatrick, if you're watching, thank you so much for making the right call, and I cannot wait to see you suit up in purple, my friend. I think you're going to really like it in Manhattan. But guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Just want to give a quick shout out to everyone in this recruitment, everyone that's helped out this offseason with Kansas State. This is my, guess for the last pickup of the transfer portal cycle until the spring. Will that be the case? It's only one way to find out, but that's going to do it for today's video, and I will talk to you all soon. Go Cats!